Please be seated. The court is now back in session. And again, the floor is given to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties to continue putting questions to the civil party. You may proceed. Do you still have any question to be put to the civil party?
President, no, we will give the floor to the co-prosecutors.
Thank you. The chamber then would like to give the floor to the co-prosecutors to put the questions to the civil party, and you may proceed. Co-prosecutor, good afternoon, Mr. President, Your Honors, and everyone in and around the courtroom. Good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. My name is Sri Ratana. I am a National Deputy Co-Prosecutor. I only have a few follow-up questions to put to you in relation to what happened in Tree Village. Upon your arrival in Tree Village, you stayed in a house. And can you tell the court, were there other people already in that house upon your arrival? Answer, no. When I went up the house was empty. However, against the walls, I saw some rings and earrings laying and scattered there on the floor near the wall. That's upon my entry into the house. Question. For those women who went with you, were all of you placed into that one house, or were they placed into other houses as well? Answer, no, we were not separated. We were placed into that one house. Question. In response to the questions put to you by your lawyer, you said that the district chief Ho came to meet you and to question you. And how did you know him? Answer. I knew he was a new district chief who came from the other side of the river. Ho was the chief of the district, and I cannot recall his deputies. Oh, it was Pan, and the member of the district was Jim. And there were also other soldiers whose names I couldn't recall. Their office was not far from where we were at the time. Question. My question to you, Madam Civil Party, is that how did you know that he was the district chief when he came to meet your group? Answer. I knew him as a district chief as I learned from the soldiers there. So I learned about him, Ho, the district chief, about his deputy and member of the district. In fact, they told us that they were in charge of the district chief and Ho was the chief. Questioned. For those women who said that they were charmed and they were taken away, how many women actually responded that they were charmed, and how many said that they were Khmer? Answer. There were many women in the house. There were about 300 women. So those women who said that they were charmed were taken away, and there were only about 30 of us left behind who said that we were Khmer. I reached in responding to say that I was Khmer because I wanted to leave to see what would happen in Cambodia. And actually, the questioning process happened at night time. They lit a torch upon my face and said that I was a Vietnamese girl, that is Ho, who was a district chief, but I insisted and I protested that I was a Khmer girl. And upon the third time that I said I was a Khmer girl, he accepted it. And I was allowed to be put in one side. Then other women also who came from my village responded that they were Khmer when they were asked whether they were Khmer or Cham. So the 30 of us, about 30 of us remained after we said that we were Khmer. Question. Were you then under monitor again after that night? You said that they did not believe that you were a Khmer girl and you were kept in that house for 9 days as you testified earlier. Were you under monitoring during this period? Answer, of course, we were under constant monitoring, and they knew that we were sent there after what had happened. And in fact, they went to my native village to ask whether we were a Khmer. And the people there had a pity on us, then said that we were the children of the Khmer families, and that we were mistakenly taken with other Cham people. Question. And among the 30 or so people who were remained there, were any of you found out to be not Khmer? Answer, please repeat your question as I don't fully get it. Question. Among the group of about 30 of you who said that you were Khmer, later on, was there any one of you found out not to be Khmer and in fact Cham? Answer, no. However, we were making plan of fleeing the area as we were afraid that we would be the subject of killing again. Question. And did you know what happened to those women who said that they were jammed and they were taken off the house? Answer. They were asked whether they were jammed, and if the response is yes, then they were taken off the house. And for us, when we said that we were Khmer, then we were allowed to stay on that house. Question. What I want to hear from you is that for the women who said that they were jammed, then they were taken off the house to the ground, and what happened to them there? Answer. They were taken off the house and I saw people who carried a folding butt AK-47, and some were carrying knives. And these armed people took the jam people away, and they disappeared since. Question. I have actually three documents which are your statements, two of which are your statements. That is document E3 slash 9333 with the Khmer EN 00204450, and the English is 00204453, and French 00224416. You said that you saw Khmer Rouge walked a woman with a headscarf heading to the riverfront. Then a Khmer Rouge held the headscarf of the woman and slashed her throat and pushed her into the river. Other women were killed in the same fashion until no one left and no one screamed or resisted. End of quote. Free translation. Co-prosecutor, please repeat the document again. It's document E305/13.1.3.23. Please repeat the EN again. Thank you. Allow me to quote. Question. Why did you know they were being killed? Answer. I saw it with my own eyes. Their throat was slashed near the riverfront, and it was the water was high at the time. Question. What did you see? Answer. I witnessed it. They actually pulled the headscarf, slashed the throat, and thrown the body into the river without saying anything. In document E35193 with the Khmer EN 00204445 and English 00274704, and in French 00224113, you said before the investigators of the office of the co-investigating judges that you did not see the killing yourself, but one person saw it and told me about it. And you made some amendments to what you told Mr. Isa Osman, that you witnessed the killing. So you made this correction in this document, and you said that you saw the killing because you wanted justice to be done. And I'd like to hear your reaction. Is it your purpose to find justice so that you told the truth to the OCIJ investigators? Answer. Of course, I want to see justice. And frankly speaking, I can recall the statements that I made earlier. I still recall what I saw with my own eyes, and my main purpose is to seek justice. I lost everything. And of course, my memory is not that perfect. And what I have said so far before this court is the truth, is what I saw, is what I witnessed. However, when it came to the slashing of the throat, I saw that the person told with his mouth open and his throat cut and his body was floating in the river. The person was a former chief of a women group, and upon the arrival of the Southwest group, I didn't know what happened to him, but the body was floating in the river. Question. I'd like to get a reaction from you, as you used to be interviewed by me, Mr. Isa Osman, that you did not witness the people who were taken off the house had their throats slashed. However, later on, when you were interviewed by OCIJ investigators, you amended it. You said that you didn't witness it, but in fact it was told to you. And you said that you told Osman that you saw it because you want to see justice. And my question to you is, do you want justice, and for that reason you made the amendment when you were interviewed by the OCIJ investigators? Answer. I am here before this court because I want justice. President. Co-prosecutor, your question is rather difficult to understand. Please rephrase it to make it more precise and to the point. You made a rather long description of the accounts, and it is rather difficult in its form, so the civil party has difficulty to understand it. Co-prosecutor. Mr. President, I don't have any question, and I'd like to hand the floor to my international colleague. President, yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, judges. Good afternoon, parties. Good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. I'd like to start with a couple of questions to follow on regarding the period that you were in Trea Village. From what I've heard you describe so far, you said that in the house with you, when you were questioned about whether you were Cham or Khmer, there were approximately 300 women, and that approximately 30 of those women stated that they were Khmer and therefore were not taken away. So I just want to confirm that those numbers that I heard are correct, and that therefore approximately 270 women were taken away on that night.
Yes, that is correct.
នាំទៅនឹងអត់ឃើញយក
Those women were taken away and I never saw them returned. Those who said that they were Cham were taken off the house and away.
Thank you. You also mentioned that once the women who said they were Cham were taken away, those that had stated they were Khmer, including yourself, continued to be under investigation. You mentioned that inquiries were made in your home village, and you mentioned pork soup being prepared for you. I'd like to ask, on the day that the pork soup was prepared for you, was the district chief Ho or Hor at that meal where you were made to eat pork soup?
Only our group, the group of 30 women, were instructed to eat that pork soup, and Ho, of course, did not eat the soup with us. And there were soldiers there who were watching us and seeing whether we were eating the pork soup or not. And that was the time that the first time that I consumed pork.
Even though Ho did not eat the soup himself, was he present when you were being made to eat the soup?
Yes, Ho was there and he was overall in charge. So there was a presence of Ho, the district chief, and then there were also soldiers.
The 30 women who stated that they were Khmer in the period after the Cham women were taken away, would you speak to each other in Cham language or in Khmer language?
Please repeat your question.
The 30 women who stated that they were Khmer, including yourself, would you speak amongst yourselves in Khmer or in Cham language?
Of course, we kept speaking Khmer until the end of the Khmer Rouge regime.
And did any of the Cham who were speaking Khmer speak with an accent that might reveal them as Cham?
They did not pay much attention to the accent. They focused on our response because at that time all of us spoke Khmer without accent. And they did not seem to pay much attention to the accent.
Thank you. You mentioned seeing men in shackles in the houses near the house that you were detained in Trea village. Did you ever see what happened to those men that were detained in those houses?
I did not know what happened to them. However, later on, those men from 2 or 3 houses nearby disappeared. They were no longer there, although I did not know whether they were killed.
Madam Civil Party, I'd like to read to you from your Civil Party application. That's E3/4705, English ERN 00417-852, Khmer 003690 26 and French 00932677 to 78. And you stated, "As for the males, I saw them in shackles and being put in motorboats and taken away." Close quote. Does that refresh your memory that you saw them being taken away in shackles on motorboats?
ខ្ញុំអត់មាននិយាយ
No, I don't recall that I made that statement to the people who interviewed me. I only saw those men on the houses, and a day or two later, they were all gone. I did not know where they were taken to, and that's what I said, if my recollection is correct.
Thank you very much. I'd like to go back now to an earlier period that you also discussed when you were in Zweikleng. You mentioned that Zweikleng was a Cham village. Can you give us an approximation of how many Cham were living in your village? And if you know an approximation of how many Cham were living in your commune?
No, I don't have any figure on that. I was rather young at the time.
មនុស្សច្រើន
However, there were many Cham people living in Zweikleng village. There were thousands of Cham families living there. It was into thousands, not hundreds.
តែប៉ុណ្្នឹង
And that's all I can say.
Were there any mosques in Zweikleng commune?
មាន
Yes.
ដល់នៅជំនាន់ពីមុនពីសង្គមមកមានពហិយដល់2ណោះមួយដល់មកពួកខ្ញុំបែកបាក់គេចំលៀសចាញ់អស់ទៅនឹងពហិយនឹងក៏បាក់បែកដែរអាលាយអស់ដែរ
I'm afraid there was no English translation of that last statement by the civil party.
Testing. Please continue, Mr. Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
So I'll just repeat my question, which was as to whether there were any mosques in Zweikleng commune, and if so, how many?
There were two mosques, and after 1975, when we were evacuated, the mosques were deserted and in ruined. And later on, when I returned, there were no mosques there anymore. There was only ground where the mosques were once were, and then they built new mosques.
Were the mosques ruined before you were evacuated?
គេជំលះ
Answer. After the evacuation, the mosques were ruined. After I left my village, the mosques were ruined.
And did you ever learn how the mosques were ruined or who ruined them?
Answer. Perhaps the Khmer Rouge destroyed the mosques or dismantled the mosques. No one dared to dismantle or destroy the mosques.
When did the Khmer Rouge arrive in Zweikleng commune?
Answer. It started from 1975 when the situation became worse. I was living in Svai Klang at that time. The situation was difficult before 1975 when the cooperatives were created, and then in 1975 the rebellion started. Before 1975, they intended to abolish the religion, and worship Cham language were prohibited. Qurans were collected and burned. We were not allowed to have the possession of Qurans, and Qurans were collected from houses.
Do you remember in what year were the Qurans collected from houses and burned?
Answer. In 1975, when we were evacuated, the Qurans were also collected, and I did not know where Qurans were sent to and were put.
Before you were evacuated, were you allowed to continue wearing Cham clothes?
Answer. As for clothing, regarding clothing, we had only black skirts, trousers, or shirts. No traditional Cham clothes were allowed to wear. We had the same clothes as Khmer people were wearing at that time.
Do you remember what year you were stopped being allowed to wear Cham clothes?
Answer. It started in the period of 1975 and 1976. We were told to wear black trousers, skirts, and shirts. Other people and I were wearing black skirts at the time, said the civil party. No modern clothes were allowed to wear, or no any kind of designs clothes were allowed to wear.
And what happened to all of the Cham traditional clothes when you weren't allowed to wear them anymore?
Answer. We had to throw the clothes away since we were not allowed to wear them. If we had worn the clothes, our traditional clothes, we would have been in danger.
Were Cham women allowed to continue wearing their hair long?
Answer. They had short hairs at the time. They could not have long hair
ក្នុងរបប
in that regime.
How was it communicated to you that you were not allowed to use your Qurans or to wear your clothes or to have your hair long? Who told you this and how was it told to you?
ថាអង្គការ
Answer. It was Angka. Angka was believed to be from the top. Angka prohibited all of us from wearing headscarf or traditional clothes, and we were instructed to cut our hair short. Qurans were not allowed to practice to use. Angka from the upper level ordered such a prohibition. I did not know about Angka, but it was Angka.
And were you told all of these prohibitions in a meeting?
ប្រាប់នៅក្នុងអង្គ
Answer. We were told in the meeting or meetings. We were invited into a meeting or meetings, and if one dared to refuse the instruction, we would have been considered betraying Angka.
And who would speak at these meetings?
Answer. Commune chief, village chief, deputy village chief, and members of village committee. Villagers were informed of the instructions, and if they had not followed the instruction, they would have been considered enemies.
Were there any hakim or hakim wrong in Zweikleng commune?
Answer. Regarding hakim, yes, there were hakims. However, no presence of hakims in my village in 1975, but before 1975, there had been hakims. So, Cham tradition, culture, customs were abolished, and we were not allowed to speak Cham language. For instance, when we were not allowed to assemble in a group of 3 or 4 unless there was one Khmer person there in the group. And if we dared to assemble in a group of 3 and 4 without a Khmer person in that group, we would have been considered enemies.
And do you know what happened to the hakim such that they were not around anymore in 1975?
Answer. You mean hakim in 1975? All hakims were gathered and sent away. I do not know where hakims or tuan were sent to. Intellectual and professors were arrested, and for this reason there was a rebellion in Zweikleng.
When you were being evacuated from your village, were you told why you were being evacuated?
គេអត់ប្រាំ
Answer: No, we were not told, because perhaps there was a rebellion. That is why all of us had been evacuated. 30 to 40 people had been collected and placed in detention. Although they had nothing to do with the rank of lieutenant, the first lieutenant or captain, they had to be arrested. Krochma Security Center was the place where they detained the arrested Cham people, and Cham people were accused of being CIA agent or enemies. And those Cham people who had been arrested never returned. Only few of them, 1 or 2, returned, but they could return and stay in the village for a period of 2 or 3 months, and then they had to go back. They were so skinny.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask you, Madam Civil Party, to try to keep your answers as brief as possible, because we only have a little bit of time left, and there's still a fair number of things I would like to ask you about. Did you ever hear, while you were being evacuated, did you hear any announcements being made?
Answer: We were told to leave, and then we were informed over the loudspeaker that they wanted to search for enemies, and we were informed over the loudspeaker that if we did not leave the villages, we would be considered enemies. So at that time, we had to leave. We laid down knives or any weapons and left the villages. At that time, they fired bullets to all of us.
Are you saying that they fired bullets in order to make you leave?
បាញ់រះនឹងអ្នកណាតដៃគេបាញ់រះអញ្ចឹងហើយ
And if one did oppose the instruction, he or she would be shot dead. So if we did not leave villages, we would have been killed. At that time, there was a gunfire, and they were shooting at every direction to those who refused to leave.
Can you tell us, you mentioned this before, but can you tell us what happened to your father as you were being evacuated?
Answer: Concerning my father, we had been living together before the rebellion. When we reached the bridge to another side of the river, we were allowed to cross the bridge, but my father was arrested and detained, and I have never seen him after that time.
And when you saw your father being detained, did you see anyone else being detained with him?
Answer: Yes, I saw there were many people, particularly youth, male youth.
ពួកដែលខត់នឹងសិត
The detained people, by them, they were considered enemies.
You stated you were then held at a kiln. Were there any arrests that took place while you were being held at the kiln for about a month?
Answer: we were detained in that kiln. We were sent to the tobacco kiln. All of us were female detained in that kiln. Some married women had children. At that time, I was below 20 years old. I was about 17 years old. Children, babies were also detained and held in that kiln. They were crying, they were screaming. Some of them were so hungry. Each one could receive only a small ladle of gruel with no taste at all, very plain taste.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. I'm going to ask that you pay close attention to my questions and answer them as briefly as possible. My question was, were you aware of any arrests taking place while you were being held at the kiln?
Answer: we were held there in the kiln. While being detained, they were searching for enemies. They wanted to see those who dared to oppose them. We were there for 1 month and 3 days, after which all female were sent to live in various villages and were sent to different directions. Some were sent to Stâng Trong, Sraiville. And as for widows, they were sent to live along the river of Krochma district. And these widows, their husbands had been taken away already, and later on they were sent to live along the river bank in Krochma district.
I'm going to try one more time. When you were being held at the kiln, were you aware of anyone being arrested while you were being held at the kiln?
Answer: the prisoners, I could refer them as prisoners. Some of them were put in different places. There were trees in the pagoda, and we were staying there for a period of 1 month and 3 days, after which we were sent elsewhere. For those who were not considered enemies, they had the opportunity to see their spouses and children. And for others who were considered enemies, they would be sent away and disappeared. My father and some others were considered to be linked to CIA or KGB agent or enemies. And my father at the time could not even read and write. He was, however, considered an enemy.
Thank you. I'd like to move forward now quite a bit to when you were in Kasach Prachelu. Were you ever aware of a time while you were there at Kasach Prachelu that cadre from the southwest zone arrived there?
មិនមែនចឹង
Answer. At the beginning, I was sent to live and work in Ksach Prochesler. At that time, the Southwest cadres had not arrived yet. Later on in 1976 and 1977, they came and gathered Cham people. When I was at Ksach Prochesler, I was assigned to work in a cooperative digging the canal. And later on in the dry season, I was reassigned to build a dam at Krachap. And for the second year, I was sent to Bangkrojap, after which I was relocated to Takjerau. And they were brutal. The situation was so difficult at Takjerau. I was required to work day and night. I was ordered to carry dirt 3 cubic meters of soil per day, and if I could not finish during the daytime, I had to continue working until the night time. We sometimes slept in the rain at night time, and in the morning we were required to work, although we were soaked at night time. I was ordered to sleep on mats in the grave field.
Madam Civil Party, I want to talk specifically about the time when the people from the Southwest Zone arrived in Kasak Pachelu. I understand that you were in a mobile unit before that. I'm not asking you about that period. I'm asking you about when the people from the Southwest Zone arrived in Kasak Pachelu, and what year was it that they arrived there, the people from the Southwest Zone?
Answer. There were many of them. I did not know when they came. I cannot tell you the exact day, month, and year. What I can recall is that upon their arrival, they had bad treatments on people. Even one committed a minor mistake, he or she would be taken away. They came to per Cham people. All Cham people had to be collected, and we were told that we had to relocate to live at Steng Trong, for instance, because at Steng Trong there were sufficient food, rice to eat, and there was abundance of work at Steng Trong. People who were sent to Steng Trong never returned.
And how did the people from the Southwest Zone go about determining who was Cham and who was not Cham?
Answer. The Southwest cadres ordered village chiefs or other people who were working in the village to identify who were Chams and who were not Cham, and then the list or the reports would be sent to the Southwest cadres. They wrote down lists of Cham people to be sent to Southwest cadres.
And once they made the lists of Cham, what happened to the male Cham that were in Kasak Pachelu?
Answer. All of the Cham people, including the male, had been collected and sent away. Male were the first male Cham people were the first groups to be collected, and they said they had to send male Cham people first to build shelters for female Cham to be sent later on. So, for instance, the male Cham people would be collected one day before the arrest or collection of other female Cham people.
And can you tell us about the collection of the female Cham from Kasak Pachelu? How did that go about?
Answer. They were called and invited into a meetings. All of them were invited, and they were told that they had to relocate to other places. The village chiefs, who were the ones responsible for collecting and inviting all those young females to be in the meeting or meetings.
And how did they relocate them to these new villages?
Answer. They were put on boats or ferries, and when the boats or big ferries reached Stung Trong, they were told to get off. The ferry was so big and it could fit 300 or 200 people.
I have just a couple of more questions for you. The first is in relation to the male and female Cham that were taken away from Kasak Pachelu. Were any of your relations in those groups of male and female that were taken away from Kasak Pachelu after the Southwest Zone cadre arrived? Any of your family members?
Answer. I heard that Cham, including male and female, were collected. I had no relation with them. During the regime, we were not allowed to trespass into other villages. We were only told to focus on our work in the cooperatives. Whenever they wanted all of us to any other place, we had to go. I did not have any means of communication with other people at that time. No telephones, no other mobile phones used.
Perhaps I shouldn't have used the word relations. What I'm asking about is, were any of your family members, mother, father, siblings, brothers, sisters, were they amongst the Cham, male and female, that were taken away from Kasak Pachelu?
Answer. All of them were gathered up, including male, female. My two younger siblings, my grandmother, my mother, all of them were gathered up in group together with other villagers, and they were sent away.
Did you ever see them again after that?
Answer. No. They disappeared since.
And were any Khmer people also made to vacate Kasak Pachelu at that time?
Answer. Some Khmer people at Prochelu were sent to Roka Canal, but they were not executed. However, some who were working in units were taken away and killed. Some of them were sent to live in the Ministry of Krasuong, said a civil party. I did not see them return.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. Thank you, Mr. President. I have no further questions.
President, thank you. The hearing today is now time for the adjournment. The Chamber will resume its hearing tomorrow, Tuesday, 29 September 2015. Tomorrow, the Chamber will continue to hear the civil party no status to conclude, and then proceeds to hear 2 TCW 845. Please be informed and be on time. Thank you, Madam No Satas. The hearing of your testimony as a civil party has not come to a conclusion yet. You are therefore invited to testify once again tomorrow morning starting from 9 a.m. Thank you. Also staff from our vessels. Since the hearing of the testimony of this civil party has not come to a conclusion yet, you are also invited to accompany her during the time the civil party is testifying before the chamber tomorrow morning. Court officer, please work with the vessels to send the civil party to the place where she is staying at the moment, and please invite her back into the courtroom tomorrow at 9 a.m. Security personnel are instructed to bring the two accused, Nguyen and Kieu Sampon, back to the ECCC detention facility and have them returned to the courtroom tomorrow before 9 a.m. The court is now adjourned.